Man, I'm a happy guy today. Just have a great time. I'm recording this on Thanksgiving Day weekend in Canada. Yeah, we do it early here because, hey, winter comes fast. And yeah, we're frozen to the core by the time you Americans celebrate Thanksgiving. And anywhere else in the world, you've got lots to be thankful for. I know you do. I've got lots to be thankful for, even though I've got lots of, garbage in my life, like my health, especially my health and stuff. But things are great. And I've ruffled some feathers. I've ticked some people off. Oh boy, you should see some of the emails I'm getting. You get some mild things in the comments down there, but well, you're having an impact when people don't like it. That's the way it goes. People don't like change. People don't like to be told that maybe they need to rethink things. So that's how life works. But that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about this modern day budget sax by CJRB. That's Artisan Cutlery's budget line of knives. I got this guy, the tan version with the coated blade. Comes in 3 colors. You got this tan and with 2 other colors. I'll put the pictures on the screen. And you can either get a satin finish or the coated blade. I didn't get it. I wasn't fast enough to order it when it was first out, so I had to wait until the second batch came in at White Mountain Knives, and then I got this guy. So I've got it here and I've had it for a while. I've tested it. Those of you who aren't aware, I do test my knives. I don't show cutting in my knife videos, and I put it up on the, I think it's up on the top of the screen in one of those corners. I've got a video talking about why I don't show cutting, but this guy's dull now. It's dull because I've done a fair bit of testing. The coating's held up pretty good, but we'll see on the tabletop. Maybe it's the stuff I was cutting. I don't know. I have cleaned it again. I've wiped it off, took all the gunk and stuff off of it. And I want to tell you about this knife. Do I like it? What's it good for? Is it worth the price? All that kind of stuff. I'm going to tell you everything I know about this knife. It's not from a guy that's just unboxed the thing and made a video. I've used it. So let's get to the tabletop. I generally don't like coated blades, but even on the second batch that White Mountain Knives got, I was a little late to putting in my order, and so they only had coated versions left in stock, and so that's what I ended up getting. I prefer to have, the satin blade, especially prefer stonewash finish. This has got the AR RPM 9 steel that Artisan Cutlery had made for them, and I'm seeing some other knife companies are having it too, so I'm thinking that those knives are probably made by the same factory that makes Artisan Cutlery CJRB knives. But that's another subject. This thing's a Mallery design. China is where it's produced. And that's one of the things that CJRB is not trying to hide, the fact that made in China. On the flats, it says CJRB there. I like that the writing is on the flats and not on the main bevel. It's not quite a full flat grind. You can certainly see it on the satin finish. It comes up fairly close to the spine, but not quite. But it's a good flat grind. Nice and thin blade. Now, it's not really a sax. It's a sax basically has a straight edge right here. Some people call it reverse tanto. If you've been with my channel for a while, you know that I think that's nuts because this edge is not sharpened. It's just got one edge that's sharpened. It's got a little bit rounded, sort of like a K-tip, like I've been saying, like the Japanese knives. They've got a number of knives, the Kiritsuki, the Kengata, that has a straight clip off of it. So I'm calling this basically a K-tip or a sax or something like that. It's thin though. This edge is quite thin. We've got a flat spine, no swedges or anything, a full flat grind. You can see the black goes all the way through it. G10 here. We've got screws, 3 of them that hold it together. Now, I've not even tried to take these off yet. We'll do that in this video, see how well that goes. But right now, you can see that those are nice and clean. There's no chips off, and we'll see after one time of taking this apart if those screw heads end up getting, some of the coating chipped off of it. I think they probably will, but we'll find out. But basically, it's a straight handle on both ends, a little bit of a build-up right here, and a little bit of a front choil there. And it's thin and it's light. You know what I think this knife is for? This is a great camping knife because you can do most of your food prep, I think, with this knife. It's big enough, to deal with meat, but it's not so big that it's annoying. That's probably the best use scenario for this. Of course, you can use it for all kinds of things if you want to. It comes with a sheath, but no belt loop, no nothing else, just what you see here, which is another reason why I think it's good for that. Now, they're giving you a little bit of cordage to use this thing as a neck knife. There's going to be a lot of people in the comments balking against this as a neck knife. Oh, it's way too big for a neck knife. And then there's other guys, they commonly carry knives this size as neck knives. So, some guys like them, some guys don't. That's just the way it is. By the way, when I say guys, that's the generic term for human, in my opinion. That's how I use it anyways. You got holes in here that are riveted. They're the standard 1.5 inches apart, I think. Yeah, pretty close to 1.5 inches, not exactly 1.5 inches. That one's a little bit closer together. That one's 1.25 inches. This one's 1.5 inches. This one's about 1 3/8 inches. But I think you can find something. I tested it. Maybe I'll show you some pictures of belt loops put on here. It can take a belt loop if you want it to. I think it's just a good thing to use. Put it in your camp kit. Let's take this cordage off of here. They've got this knot right there on that piece of cordage. Yeah, pretty nice. Decent cordage. Not very heavy at all. And they left it up there. It's easy to get your thumb back in there and, push it off. Works just fine. Tiny bit of rattle, but not bad. Pretty good fit overall. That's the basic shape of the thing. I talked a little bit about how well it cuts. I did a lot of cutting with this thing. I did not do any batoning with this thing. This knife is way too thin, way too light duty of a knife for batoning. So if that's the kind of knife you're looking for, this is not it. Although I'm sure you could do it if you're careful enough, but you're risking the blade. But everything's done well. The plunge back here, it's far enough back so that you can sharpen the knife right to the heel without messing up the plunge area, so that's a good thing. Now their grind angles are a bit wonky, but it's quite sharp from the factory. This thing's quite a bit sharper than average from the factory. As usual, the heel angle here is quite of an angle, but a much more shallow angle everywhere else. And we'll talk about the averages. It's well under 20 degrees per side on average. And as sharp as it was, this thing cut very, very well. Let's get to the measurements, but first, let's try to take these handle scales off. Okay, the screws came out fairly well. I think there might have been a little bit of Loctite in there, maybe not, but they came out fairly well. They are T8, they're button screws. There is a D-shaped pin. That's a good thing because, that side of the pin does not have any holes on it. But I found out these holes are round. Well, then why isn't it free spinning? Well, it's because the G10 on the other side has got a D-shaped hole on the G10. So when you put it back together, you got to make sure you put it in, the right way so that the G10 grabs. Put the screw, the post in the side that's got the hole, and then that will give it the best grab. That's going to give you the most secure grab. Otherwise, you've got that little bit of a flat thing here, when it comes out the other way, and it's not going to engage very hard in there. So there's that. A little bit of skeletonizing here, not much at all. I didn't show you the balance point on the thing, did I? So there's a couple things I got to show you before I go over all the specs. I put it back together again. There's a tiny bit of chipping in there, like where the very tip of the screwdriver hit deep inside the hole there. Some of the coatings come off a little bit on every screw, so it looks a bit different visually, at least to the naked eye, but on the camera that doesn't pick it up very well. Anyhow, I was going to say the balance point. Let's show you that right there. A little bit behind it. I'd prefer if it was right over it. I'd prefer if the balance point was right here where it says CJRB. So you can do that pinch grip. You get fingers back here. Great for food prep. You get a nice light grip. Or maybe just, halfway between there. So the balance point's a little off. You might be able to enlarge those holes that are in there. Lighten up the handle a little bit. Fix the balance point a little bit. In the United States, it's basically listing for $69.99 in most places. At White Mountain Knives, you save 10%. That's coupon code CCE. That makes it $62.99 American. So it's just the ever slightest bit above the price that I normally target for knives that I review here in 2022, but not bad. I kind of like it. I'm not sure why. I say this every once in a while. I'm not sure why a fixed blade like this is costing more than a complex folding knife with the similar amount of materials. I just don't understand. I think it's because people are willing to pay more for fixed blades, so the companies charge more for fixed blades. That's the way life works for most items, any consumer item at all. Basically, whatever the market will sustain, that's the price they're going to put on it. If people refuse to pay that much for a thing, the price will be lowered. But people are willing to pay more for fixed blades, so they charge more for fixed blades. That's how it is. If you're in Canada and you want to get this, well, you can get fixed blades from the United States, and it's going to cross the border no problem unless it's a push dagger. But a fixed blade like this has no problem crossing the border, but the Canadian price isn't bad. The Canadian price for this is $84.99 at Blades Canada. If you want the plain blade, the one without the coating, you save $5, $79.99. It'll be cheaper to buy it in Canada if you're a Canadian. First off, the weight of this thing, the knife, 130 grams, 4.58 ounces. Yeah, that's not bad for a pretty big knife. The sheath, including the bit of cordage, is 33 grams, 1.16 ounces. Together, it's 163 grams, 5.75 ounces. How sharp is it? I already mentioned it was quite sharp. The average best score that I get when I test sharpness is 140. Smaller numbers are better. That means it's sharper. This thing got a score of 75. That's the average score after 3 attempts of putting it through my tester. So they made it very sharp. The grind angles, not so much, but they made it very sharp. The length of the cutting edge, 131.2 millimeters, 5.16 inches. The blade length, so that's the tip to the closest spot on the handle, 130.1 millimeters, 5.12 inches. The thickness of the blade up here at the flats, 2.74 millimeters, 0.108 of an inch. Not bad, 1/10 of an inch. The blade depth, the widest point, not here at the heel, it's right about where my fingers are now, 31.8 millimeters, 1.25 inches. How thick is it behind the grind? Again, measured in 3 spots. The average score is 0.44 millimeters, 17 thousandths of an inch. That's nice and thin. I like that. The grind angles, this side's got an average of 18.5 degrees. This side's got an average of 17.2 degrees. This side, it started at 17.8 degrees. It went to 16.1 degrees here, ended at 17.7 degrees here. And yes, this is one of the knives that I showed in my video on, trying to say we need to fix grind angles. This side's not terrible. That's only 1.7 degrees of change. This side's pretty wonky. At the heel of the blade, 21.7 degrees. Went to 17 degrees here. Went to 16.2 degrees here. Back to 17.1 degrees here, and then at the tip it was back at 20.3 degrees. What are they doing? Somebody's doing the wave as they're sharpening the knife. They gotta be able to do better. They really do. And I'm laughing because it's so sad that, a straight edge, there's barely a belly here. How couldn't they make it a fairly consistent edge all the way along? 5.5 degrees of change from along this blade, and that's just along half of it. Oh, that's sad. Okay, the handle. The handle length, 117.5 millimeters, 4.63 inches. The thickness of the handle, now this is not on the screws. The screws stick out a little bit more. On the G10, 12.6 millimeters, 0.496 of an inch. So yeah, nice and thin and light. The handle depth, and I'm talking about within the grip area, the widest point's right in the middle, 22.1 millimeters, 0.87 of an inch. The entire grip length, 10.5 centimeters or 4.25 inches. That's not bad. And the total length of this knife from tip to the end of the handle, 248 millimeters, 9.76 inches. Is it worth the price? Yeah, maybe. If you think it's worth the price, then yeah, it's worth the price. I like that this is a good kitchen knife. I'm probably keeping this knife, although my wife probably says we've got enough camp kit knives, for when we go camping in our kit, we have knives, right? So that's camp kit knives. That's how I see this thing primarily, a camp kit knife. The other way I see this is you could just get this thing, put the sheath away somewhere else and just put this in with your kitchen cutlery. This is the perfect utility knife size of a knife. It's got a little bit of a belly. yeah, you can chop up a few vegetables without much of a problem. You can go through some meat, especially if you're making a sandwich or something. It's a very good size knife, very good dimensions, very handy, not too heavy, easy to hold, no hot spots, well made. It's just an all-around well-made knife. Is there anything super special about this knife? No, there's nothing super special about this knife at all. But there's nothing terrible about it either. It's just one of those middle-of-the-road kind of deals. Maybe you want something like this. Please leave a comment down below. Any kind of comment really, really helps everybody out. Maybe not you. It takes up 10 seconds of your time. Sorry about that. You'll never get those 10 seconds back, and it's going to ruin the rest of your life. So if you really can't handle that, well, I think you've clicked away already. Yeah, I'm in a good mood. I thank you for stopping by. Thank you to my supporters. You guys are stunning. I appreciate your help every single month. Thank you. And remember, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb.